All right, good morning everybody. Welcome to the last section in chapter 3. All right, so we only had 3 sections in chapter 3. It'll go pretty quick. We'll quiz probably Tuesday of next week, and then we'll just move on. So we're not going to take a big unit test for chapter 3, but we are going to do a little quiz just to see what you know, and then we'll move on from there to chapter 4. Section 3.3 deals with, now that we've created our budget sheet, we've created our budget, how can we actually use that? Okay? And so, what is the proper way to actually use a budget after we've created one? That's what we're going to get into today. Figure out if we're over or under budget is the main objective for today's lesson. So our little comic or video is the wallet screaming, "Please don't use all of me." Whether that's your cash or card, save some for the rest, right? All right, a few things that you'll need to know. Some definitions. Okay, expense summary. It compares the amounts that you spend to the amounts that you've budgeted for. Okay, so that's just putting a whole summary together of all your spendings, and it's comparing. Okay, comparing between what you've set aside for, say, food for that month versus how much you actually spent on food that month. Okay, and it's a comparison. So that's the big thing here. When we talk expense summary, it compares two amounts of money. All right? Our next definition is an emergency fund. Okay, it kind of speaks for itself, an emergency fund. But the actual definition for that is extra money is set aside to be used for unpredictable expenses. Okay, and I have some of those unpredictable expenses here. Okay, random medical bills. All right, you trip and fall on the ice, you got to go and get your knee checked out or your back, whatever it might be. Those co-pays are emergency funds. They're not cheap. All right, hopefully health insurance covers some of it if you have to go further, and MRIs, X-rays, all that kind of stuff. But you never know. And then also vehicle repairs. Right, cars are expensive. Whether it's brakes, new tires, oil changes that happen, something breaks, hose breaks or something, right? They're expensive pieces of equipment. So we need to set aside money for when those unpredictable things come into our life, that we can pay those and then move on. So setting aside an emergency fund is a great idea. It is a fantastic idea. Our calculation today is pretty simple. All right, we only have to use a very, very one-step, easy subtraction problem. All right, and so all we're going to be doing is looking at how much they spent on their budget versus how much they actually set aside and budgeted for. All right, so all that entails is a simple subtraction problem. Here's our example for today. The Hernandez family has always kept accurate records of their expenditures, okay, of their expenses. All right. At the end of March, they prepared an expense summary. They had planned to spend $220 on groceries. They actually spent $231.85. How much more or less did they spend on groceries than they had budgeted for? Okay, the key word here, when we're talking expense summaries and using a budget, is this more or less. Okay, that's telling us to usually compare, and that would be an expense summary, which the calculation for that would be a subtraction problem. Okay, so how much more or less did they spend on groceries than they had budgeted for? Subtraction, right? They spent $231.85. They only budgeted $220. So we want to find out how much more they spent. Okay, I think we can do that. $11.85. So as long as you plug this into your calculator correctly with the right numbers, we shouldn't have any issues on knowing when to subtract these items, right? So let's say they had, for example, the same budget on groceries. So $220 they set aside for their budget on food. Okay? Let's say they spent $100 $195 that month on food, or that week, whatever they budgeted for. Oh, it says at the end of March here. So it looks like they're doing a monthly budget on food. Okay? Let's say they have $195 that they spent on food at the end of March. Okay? Well, how much less did they spend on groceries than they had budgeted for? Okay? Well, let's take that $220 that they've set aside, subtract off the $195, and so we would say that they're $25 under budget, right? So they saved a little bit of money that month. Okay, remember to always subtract the smaller number from the bigger number, right? We shouldn't have any negatives when we're talking about more or less, all right? If you do have negatives, you'll have to flip your numbers and rework that subtraction problem. All right. Again, P.S., there's only 3 sections in this chapter. This is the last one. Okay, so we're going to most likely take a quiz on Tuesday. On Tuesday, we're going to take that quiz, and then we'll just move on to chapter 4. Okay? And that will be after the long weekend here, so you get a little bit of a break. But for section 3.3, remember to please put this on top of your papers, the section, okay, with everybody at different levels, everybody at different pace. Makes things a lot easier for me when I can grade and I can get them done quick so I can get them back to you guys. Okay, so put that section 3.3, put that section 3.3 on the top of your homework and get started on this page 154, 3 through 14. All right, not a ton of problems, but I think we can handle those today. So, see you in a little bit.